here's a question I got from a leader at an organization
Okay.
where the organization itself, primarily white, primarily male, there are some women, but not in as many leadership positions. And the leadership genuinely does want to diversify the workforce and they're actively
Mhm.
hiring. And the question this leader asked me was, how do I genuinely and authentically communicate to a candidate that may be diverse, whether, let's say, a woman of color comes in or a man of color comes in to interview or someone of color comes in? And how do I have that diversity discussion with them when they can see in the office that there's not a lot of diversity at all? And I don't want them to feel like I'm just talking to them because they are of color
Mhm.
or a different gender identity. How do you authentically have that conversation, or do you avoid it entirely?
I don't think you can avoid it, but you certainly can't assume that the person that you're talking to wants to talk about diversity or it's in their forefront. So they're probably thinking about it in the back of their head, but I wouldn't necessarily sit down and say, how come there's no women here? And then force the leader to talk about it. But what I think a leader can do is start asking, particularly the leaders who maybe are doing a sell conversation after someone's got an offer, or they're the last set of interviews, right? They're not typically in the beginning. What's important to you in a company? What are you looking for in a company that you want to join? Because I'd like to understand how we can get you here. And I want to make sure that this culture is what you're looking for. And if it's not, I want to have a conversation. So maybe that's a way to open the door. And Brian might say, I'm worried. I don't see a lot of female leaders, for example. And what's your plan? We're 50% of the population. You guys have talked about diversity, or it's at least in your materials. And I haven't seen it represented here. So you might open up the door for that conversation, but that leader shouldn't feel like they have to all of a sudden bring it up, because I think that also provides some awkwardness. So
Yeah.
I want to be careful there
You
too.
don't want to force the conversation, but you do, I think, to your point, want to be ready to respond to that. And it's not going to be enough most of the time to just say, we're trying. Even if you don't have all the specific answers and the perfect plan or everything, you want to be prepared to say, we're trying. And if you are genuinely trying, share what you're doing, share how you're trying.
Mhm.
And it's okay to
Yep.
not be there yet. And it's okay to not have the perfect answers, but to show that you're thinking critically about it, to show that you're making efforts in that kind of situation can go a really long way to make that candidate feel like, okay, I can be a part of this change.